Hello there. I can see people coming in. There are a few more coming in. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on a little whiz through becoming a languages teacher. Just be aware I'm on my own here, so I won't be able to interact with you on the question and answer function. I will run through my PowerPoint at the end. I will refer you to our website, so hopefully you'll be able to get your questions answered there as well, but I'll try my best to cover as much as possible. I'm Katrin Sredzki-Seamer. I'm the director of the National Modern Languages SCITT. I will talk about our SCITT in a little while, but just to say a little bit about myself, I'm a German national. I came to England about 30 years ago. And initially was actually trained as an interpreter and translator, was never intending to be a teacher, but worked in a school in Derby, in a couple of schools actually, as a languages assistant, as a German assistant. And yes, my journey as a teacher began there. I then worked as an unqualified teacher, did my PGCE at Nottingham University, and then have been teaching in schools in England, in the north of England, ever since. The school I'm currently working at is Silverdale School, which is a comprehensive school in Sheffield, which is also our lead school for the National Modern Languages SCITT. I taught German and Spanish and a tiny bit of beginner's Chinese, and became head of German, head of languages, and now I'm leading the teacher training program for our SCITT. So you might be wondering about the different school routes into teaching, and I know this can be quite confusing for anybody because there are so many. The traditional route would be through university. This is often also referred to as core, and there the university is your provider of qualified teacher status and also offers a PGCE, a postgraduate certificate in education, or a PGDE, which is a postgraduate diploma in education. So when you are at a university, you spend quite often the first month of September and part of October at university first, doing academic studies, and then going into your first placement up to Christmas, then return to university for more studies, and then start your second placement around about end of January through to May. The second route into teaching would be school direct. Now, school direct routes are usually led by teaching schools, which are attached to schools. Here, the teaching school works with the university together to provide teacher training. You will spend more time in the school, and the teaching school will also provide part of your training. But you will also spend time at university. So it's a combination of theory and practice, and slightly more time in school than if you were on a university course. And then you have SCITTs, school-centered initial teacher training. So traditional SCITTs, again, they are accredited to a school. And this SCITT will then be the provider of the qualified teacher status. So in the first two routes I talked about, the university will provide the QTS and also award the PGCE. In a SCITT, the actual SCITT itself will award the QTS, but they will also work with the university to provide a PGCE. Now, the traditional SCITTs will have trainees from different subjects all together, and will teach them together for what's called the professional studies, and then we'll provide regular subject-specific training for each of the subjects. So in a traditional SCITT, you will have maybe 2 mathematicians, 3 historians, a couple of geographers, some linguists, so a mixture from different subjects. Now, in this sense, we are completely different as the National Modern Languages SCITT. We were the first subject-specific SCITT created, so we only focus on languages and work on a national level, while the traditional SCITTs just work on a local level. And there's only one other subject-specific SCITT in this country, which was founded the year after us, which is the Maths and Physics SCITT. Now, becoming a teacher, there are a number of things you're going to have to consider. Of course, you have your academic studies, so learning about pedagogy. For our subject, it would be language acquisition and also language learning theories. You also have your placements. All trainees will have 2 placements over the year, and each one of them being no less than 6 weeks. So you traditionally, with our SCITT, spend a whole year in one school and then 6 weeks in a complementary placement in another school. I will talk about those placements in a little while. You obviously gain QTS at the end of the year, qualified teacher status. And then after that, the first 2 years, you're sort of still finishing off your training. The first year being your induction year, which you have to pass for your qualification to become fully portable. And then after, so that's when you're considered an NQT, a newly qualified teacher. And then the second year, you'll be called an RQT, which is a recently qualified teacher. So in those 2 years, you are still entitled to having a mentor and a bit less teaching than a full-time teacher. And then you'll continue your career. So obviously your teaching load will gradually increase. And after you've done your first 2 years in practice as an NQT and an RQT, you're then working on a full teacher load. You will also be a form tutor. You will have access to continuous professional development, and it'll be a requirement that you continue to do that. And you will also, of course, have opportunities to move into leadership, either on the pastoral side, form tutor, head of year, head of key stage, or on the academic side, so becoming a second in a subject area, a leader of a subject, and so on. So there are plenty of opportunities to continue to develop beyond your initial training. Now, I mentioned our SCITT, which is the National Modern Languages SCITT. What's unique about us as well, which you can already see in that title, is that we work with the state as well as the independent sector. So our SCITT is accredited to a state school, but we have hubs across the whole country that are led by independent schools and form a cluster of state and independent schools working together, providing the placements for our trainees. And looking at the photos at the bottom right, you've got one of our trainees from our very first year, Hannah, who is a native of Sweden. And she also spent a lot of her youth and childhood in Belgium, so was a native speaker of French, and first started as a teaching assistant and then joined the National Modern Languages SCITT to complete her training. She's now working, well, she has been for the last 3 years in a school, and it's just become a head of year 10. And at the top in the middle, this is Elena, who is from Spain. She was living near Gibraltar and came to England to do her teacher training with us, and then continued to stay to complete her induction year, and is now working in a British school abroad back in Spain, but still teaching British children. So as I said before, why choose us? If you love languages, then we are the right people for you, because everything we do is about languages, and everybody on our program who delivers is also a linguist. We're the only SCITT that does focus on languages only. I mentioned that first part already. We are also a partnership, like I said, between state and independent schools that offers us the opportunity to offer a range of placements, a great variety. Also offer some limited places for the lesser spoken languages, such as Mandarin, Arabic, Italian, and as I said, we are spread across the country, and if you, I will show you a link later to our website where our hubs are, and we are continually growing. And I mentioned that all our hubs basically are led by a main school, which we call a lead school, and then a number of other schools are their partners. So, for instance, in the Dulwich Hub in South East London, we currently have 18 trainees, so that you can imagine are placed across a number of different schools. Most schools just take one trainee, some schools might take two. We also have a hub in Oundle near Peterborough. We've got another one in Abingdon near Oxford, one in Bolton, which is North London. We're also going to have we'll also have one in South. Did I say North London? North Manchester. We also have one in South Manchester. Our main hub is here in Sheffield, where I am at the moment. And we also have placements at Grimsby, which is the Humber, so North Lincolnshire and the Humber, and around the South Lincolnshire and East Midlands as well. So you can see there's a wide range of areas where our trainees are placed. Our SCITT is also supported by Teaching School. I mentioned Teaching School earlier in the context of School Direct. So Silverdale Schools also got the Sheffield Teaching School Alliance attached. And here we train teachers of all a range of subjects, primary and secondary, over 100 trainees every year as well. So there is a vast array of experience in teacher training. So why choose a SCITT? You get hands-on training in your schools, combined with academic teaching as well. So you get the theory when you go to university or training courses, or when you do some academic reading, and then you get the chance to try this out every day in a school. So one of the things our trainees and NQTs always say, the advantages, you are there from day one, so you see what happens in the school from the first inset day, when departments look at results, when teachers are getting ready for the new arrivals. So when they go into their jobs the following year, they've seen this all before and tried. They also find it always useful that they can look at ideas in training and then try them out almost immediately, come back, reflect on that, and continue to improve. They also become really part of the staff as they're there from day one, and can experience the school in every aspect, pastorally, socially, as a community, and also as the school itself within a local community as well. Oops, sorry, my PowerPoint's just stopped for a minute. I mentioned the opportunity to teach in both state and independent schools. So this is where we try and give you a good variety of experiences. Not all trainees train in independent schools, but the vast majority will have at least one placement in an independent school. Our staff who deliver on the training, we have several lecturers who've been in teacher education for a very long time. You've got people like me who have been teachers, but now focus more on teacher training. And then all our hub leaders are actually still teachers in the classroom, so they focus on the hub for 1 day or 2 days a week, but the rest of the time they're still teaching in school. So when they're delivering the training in the hub with you, they will actually bring in their own ideas from the classroom, and actually can tell you firsthand what it's like as well. So there is that feet fully on the grounds of realism still there. I said we are spread all over the country, so there is also the opportunity, some of our trainees take the opportunity to spend one of their placements in a different hub, so they can experience what that is like. We also have a few trainees who are just not within a close hub, but maybe slightly further away, but they are in a school that's offered them a placement with a mentor. So they might take the opportunity to benefit from our remote support, but then join the training within the nearest hub as well. So we can be very flexible if you already have connections with the school as well. We also have a part-time course available that started for the first time this last September gone. And here you spend your first year doing the training with our SCITT, and then the second year, while still continuing to be in a school, you do your academic studies for the postgraduate certificate in education. The departments we work with across the country are all departments where we have a good range of students, so you can see what it's like in the reality, and you can also work out for yourself as a teacher what kind of school you would like to work in, or at least spend the first few years of your career in. The vast majority of our schools teach more than one language, and they also have, of course, at least a curriculum from 11 to 16. Our course is 11 to 16 with a sixth form enhancement. So at some part of your training, you will also spend time experiencing A-level teaching, planning, delivering lessons, assessing pupils' work. So you have the opportunity then to also apply to schools where sixth form languages are on offer. And of course, we expect our departments to be enthusiastic about languages, buy into the culture, and the vast majority of ours, of course, not at this moment in time, but normally are very keen on organizing trips, offering lots of cultural experiences for their pupils, and nurture the love for languages. So what do you gain? I mentioned already the qualified teacher status, so all providers will offer you the qualification of that at the end. And the vast majority of providers also offer postgraduate certificate in education or postgraduate diploma in education. So for us, it's a postgraduate certificate in education. So these are your academic studies of 2 assignments over the year. And for our SCITT, these are fully focused on languages again. So our trainees currently are writing a assignment of 5,000 words about the use of the target language in the classroom, how you as a teacher can use that effectively and nurture the use of target language within your pupils as well. You gain 60 master's credits if you do postgraduate certificate in education. If it's a diploma, you will get more. These master's credits are fully portable, and you can then at a later point at another university maybe finish your master's in education if you wish. And moving on from there, we will then, of course, throughout the year support you when you're writing your application. We will give you practice interviews. We will help you prepare your demonstration lesson to help you successfully move into your first teaching job. I mentioned already earlier that we have a large teaching school attached to us. So this is one of the reasons why our SCITT might be attractive to anyone really getting into teaching. We are also involved with the early career framework, and I've now also been allocated a teaching school hub. So we are very much at the forefront of teacher training and then support of continued professional development of teachers in the future, with the obvious commitment to keep teachers in the profession for the long run. I mentioned that our staff are very much still rooted in teaching, so is our course. So our course gets regularly reviewed by teachers who are still in the classroom to look at ways we can make this all up to date and make sure that it's still fully and utterly rooted in the reality of the classroom. We also work with a number of different professional organizations, as the British Council, ALL, of course, the Association for Language Learning, ISMALA, which is the Independent Schools Modern Languages Association, NCELP, National Centre for Excellence in Language Pedagogy, which was founded as a follow-on from the MFL Pedagogy Review and the Stephen Spender Trust, who provide a lot of training also for our trainees on translation in the classroom. So what happens from the support side as a trainee, and this will be very similar for a lot of, or if not all providers, you have the support all the way through. We start with the familiarization days, which are at the end of August, where we introduce you to the British education system, especially because a number of our trainees are not educated in this country. So you also get to know your other trainees and start forming your network of support. I mentioned the subject-specific training. This happens all the way, so not only the pedagogy, but also our SCITT-led training in each hub is centered around languages. So we will teach you about behavior management in the languages classroom. We will talk about differentiation in the languages classroom. In addition, you will have seminars with the university lecturers. We work with Sheffield University. And also you will receive their online support. You will have your link tutor and all the reading, the access to the library, and all the libraries of other universities that Sheffield Hallam have got agreements with. So there will be also very likely be a library in your local area that you can visit. Within each placement school, you will have an initial teacher training coordinator, so that's the same everywhere. This is a person who within the school looks after all the trainees and quite often also the NQTs, the newly qualified teachers. They will run weekly sessions, which are more broadly looking at behavior management, the school policies, the school itself, the community that makes it different from maybe another school. And they will be your point of call should you have any difficulties. Then within your subject, you will also have a subject-based mentor who will look after you in a day-to-day kind of way. They will have a weekly meeting with you. They will look at the feedback you get from teachers. They will make sure that your training program is focused on your personal strengths and make sure that you get the opportunities to develop your skill in every aspect. And as I mentioned before, we will then, together with your mentor and your senior mentor, support you in applying for your first job. And last year, 12 of our trainees actually managed to secure jobs in their school where they were placed, which is fantastic. So just to talk about our course itself, we offer a pre-course program which starts in March. We have different times when we offer you the opportunity to meet with us. We will start some audits. We will make sure you have a pre-course learning plan. We make sure you do meet your mentor as soon as your placement is confirmed. We have a welcome event in June where mentors and trainees meet and also are trained together. And then you have a pre-course, like a familiarization week in the last week of August, normally 4 days, where you get ready for going into your placement. You look at pedagogy, you work on reflections. We teach you different languages to get a feel for language teaching and language acquisition theories. And to get you sort of thinking about the first few days in schools and what you've got to look out for. Apart from being then in school and I will talk about a school day in a minute, you then will keep on returning for your training sessions with your fellow trainees to learn more about the theories and discuss things that have happened to you and working on strategies and so on. You will also have tasks from each training session to the next to complete in schools, whether it be observation, whether it be finding out information, whether to do some planning tasks, whether to do some micro teaching and teach certain aspects in your lessons and then reflect on those and share those experiences with your fellow trainees. You will also have, of course, ongoing school-based support throughout the year. So our lecturers and tutors will come into school, make sure you're well supported. We're currently running our first quality assurance round. So my colleagues are going into schools, well, virtually at the moment, and checking that all trainees are well supported, have opportunities to develop, have targets set on a regular basis, are assessed appropriately, and basically have the opportunity to grow, while mentors are being trained to make sure they do a good job and are able to support the trainees appropriately. I mentioned the opportunity to teach in 2 schools. This is a statutory requirement that you have placements in 2 contrasting schools. So it might be an inner city 11 to 16 school for one of your placements, and then an 11 to 18 schools, which is more rural for the second. You could have 1 state school, 1 independent school. However, you can't spend your whole year just in an independent school. One of your placements has to be in a state school. You receive language-specific documentation, whether it is our lesson planning pro forma, whether it's the way we are completing mentor session records, observation forms, and so on. Everything is geared towards languages and languages only. You will have an audit for your first and your second and third language that you can review ever so often to see that you're making good progress and you're getting the opportunity to grow your experience and your confidence in each one of the languages. So you might teach all the way up to A level for one of your languages, but maybe you have a little bit of Spanish or a little bit of German there in the background, and you might be teaching that at Key Stage 3, so year 7, 8, 9, and maybe over the years you grow your confidence and are able to teach just that little bit more at the end of the year, which will increase your opportunities for jobs as well. You will have a nominated lead teacher who will look after you from our central office into the hub lead school to make sure you're being well supported and you've got somebody to go to should you need extra help. So there's online and face-to-face support. Throughout this current lockdown, we continue to teach our what we call day school training, so our training in our hubs face-to-face, while the PGCE training happens online. But you will keep on seeing the same people. You have the same familiar staff working with you at any point of the year. And then you will have, of course, your support for developing your qualified teachers status portfolios. So working towards things that make it certain for us to be able to award qualified teacher status to you at the end. On top of that, the university will assess your PGCEs, so 2 assignments I mentioned before. And once you have been awarded QTS by us as the provider, the university will then award the PGCE if you have passed your assignments. And then our support continues. So even if you are qualifying at the end of June, that doesn't end the journey with us. We will help you with, like I said, not only securing your job, but we will also support you in ensuring that you've got an appropriate contract, that you're going into the induction year with the appropriate support and targets. And then we will have regular catch-up sessions throughout your first year as a newly qualified teacher to ensure that you are completing this year successfully. And as our teaching schools, also an appropriate body for over 100 newly qualified teachers, we have very much the experience to ensure that all of our past trainees are supported well into their NQT year. I mentioned the part-time, so just to reiterate, in the part-time you tend to work more towards the QTS in the first year, and then you add the PGCE in the second year, but you will get all your qualifications at the end of the 2 years. So the minimum requirements that will be of interest, I'm sure for you. You do need a good honours degree, so it's got to be good honours, and if your degree is not from the UK, you will need a NARIC statement to prove that. Then, Of course, high fluency in English is essential. Now, if you're a native speaker of English, that, that might not make as much sense to you, but a lot of our trainees are foreign nationals, and this is one of the things that I'm afraid you're going to have to prove, even if you've got a degree from another country in English. You've still got to prove that, I'm afraid. So a GCSE in English and maths or equivalent is necessary. So you can provide NARIC statements. However, if you studied English as a foreign language, so living abroad, studying English, that will not be enough. So you may well have to complete the IELTS exam, so just be aware of that. When I did my own teacher training, I actually did the Cambridge Certificate of Proficiency. You also have to provide evidence, but this can happen throughout the year of your training, of fundamental maths and English skills. So just for you to be aware, most of ours find it quite easy to prove the English skills anyway, because they're studying towards a PGCE and have had all the prerequisites before by either having high quality GCSEs or equivalents. The maths might be something that we will have to audit. However, we put the support in place to make sure that you can develop those skills. The evidence of some relevant teaching experience is desirable, but we know that you're not always having that opportunity, and sometimes that might put people off. So just look in your past when you're applying for teacher training. What things have you done that actually show that you have a commitment to developing young people? And I'm sure most of you will have done something in their past in form of voluntary work and so on. Of course, in normal times, we would offer you school experience. A lot of schools offer that, where you can actually go in for the day, observe lessons, talk to staff, talk to trainees who are there. However, at the moment, of course, that's not possible. We run regular taster sessions throughout our hubs where you can talk to staff about this, but of course, at the moment, meeting pupils is not that easily sorted, and online is just not the same as seeing them in the classroom. But hopefully we'll be back to normal at some point so that can resume. So each application we receive, once they've come through UCAS or DFE Apply, get shortlisted. Of course, we check your qualifications and we read your personal statement. But we see each person as an individual, and this is the same throughout our training as well, that we are trying to develop each one of our trainees as individuals. We have anybody from people who've just finished their degree at university all the way to age 60, training and having a vast array of different experience in their past. So yeah, to get on to, I mentioned jobs. So we have a very good track record of getting our trainees into jobs once they have qualified with us. And this is through our teaching school and all the partnership we work with. So we will send out your CVs to our partners as well. Our partners come to us and ask whether we've got trainees, and depending on how flexible you are, of course, with where you live, you might have an easier time to find the ideal job you want, or it might be just that little bit more difficult if you're very limited within your area that you live, and you can't, due to family circumstances, maybe move too far away. But we encourage you, basically, we're encouraging our trainees now to start looking for jobs for next September. The sooner you start, the more your chances are that you get just what you're looking for. Talk money. The government are offering a £10,000 bursary. Of course, you will have to check your eligibility, especially if you're not a UK national. Go through Get Into Teaching advisor. If you Google Get Into Teaching, you can sign up for the premium service and get tailored advice depending on your circumstances. For our course, the fees for this next year are £9,250, or if you go for the part-time, that's £6,000 a year. I can only recommend also to contact Student Finance England to establish your eligibility for tuition fee loans and maintenance loans, which are means tested. but we can advise you. You can ask our staff in our office as well, and I'll show you the link to our website in a minute if you wanted some more help. However, to get into teaching advisors will be able to help you with that as well. Just quickly to say what the training looks like, going on questions that I normally get when I get into teaching sessions. I mentioned the pre-course that is obviously building up to supporting you during the year, making sure you meet your conditions of your offer of starting your training and helping you to get ready for the actual start at the end of August. I mentioned the familiarization, which is the last week in August. And then you start your placement from day one in school, where you normally have an induction, get to know the policies in school, are told about your community, so you get to know them. Your mentor will sit down and start putting together a timetable for you, get you to meet key staff, get to know the school routine, the day. Your teaching load is tailored to you. So obviously we want you by the end of the year to teach about 60% of a full timetable, but this will be gradual. So you will start by observing an awful lot in your first couple of weeks. You will maybe start taking a starter or the end of a lesson or middle of a lesson and teach a little bit. And once you gain your confidence, you might take on a bit more. And your mentor will challenge you, support you, push you to try out new things. And maybe by October half term, you're already teaching 1 or 2 lessons on your own per week, depending on how confident you are. And then over the year, you build this up. Some of our lessons, some of the lessons you teach will be solo lessons where you are just in charge, and others will be paired with another teacher or another trainee. So 2 of you are working together. In any case, you'll always have your host teacher in the lesson who will observe you, will give you feedback on how it's gone, will advise you, help you plan for your next lesson, set targets, and so on. A typical day for our trainees, they will come in the morning, get ready for the day, they will attend form time. All trainees are touched to a form so they can see that pastoral side of a teacher's job. And then they might have a couple of lessons where they're just observing teachers either in languages or in other subjects. They might teach 1 lesson, then they will have a bit of time working on their documentation. They might do some academic reading. They might teach another paired lesson or support lesson, or do a bit of foreign language assistant work to support children in year 11, maybe to develop skills they have lost through lockdown and so on. And then they might have a departmental meeting after school, or meeting with their senior mentor coordinator, or some training that happens within the school. Normally you start about 8:30 in a school and finish around 4, half 4, but that will vary very much. Some schools might have slightly longer days, so this will be different wherever you go. I mentioned the SCITT training and support that you have all along, so you keep on returning for your regular training, and this will be the same with all providers. Of course, you can always make a phone call, email people to get more support. I mentioned the 2 contrasting placements. You will also spend 3 days in a primary school to see where the children come from that you're teaching in year 7. And you will also have the opportunity to develop your skills in teaching A-level and Key Stage 5. I mentioned the academic studies on the side, lots of reading, further reading, and also we encourage you to become involved with local professional bodies such as the Association for Language Learning, attend webinars, training days, and so on, also with the exam board. And then you continue support into your induction year and beyond. So just a few things to consider before you're applying for your teacher training. So any school experience you have, any sort of environment you've been in with children, reflect on those experiences, add them into your personal statement. It's important to show that you've worked with children, that you know what's coming as a teacher, what the profession involves, and showing your commitment to developing children and developing the passion for languages as well. Do check the different providers. I could say our course is the best, well it is, but do make sure that you check that you find the teacher training route that is the right one for you. You've got to be able to blossom in whatever you choose. So make sure you get 3 choices in your application. So do double check that you know all the ins and outs and have asked all the questions. Subject knowledge enhancement courses, you might have heard about them. They do exist. In the past, the government provided bursaries for those. We're currently waiting to get more information on that. So in the past, our trainees have developed maybe a language that they once learned at GCSE or even a lower level, and they had the opportunity to develop that language in the time before they started their teacher training. Some people picked up a new language from scratch, which really helps them, of course, to develop that skill and when they're applying for jobs post-training. So you need to look out for those once the announcement has been made, whether these bursaries will continue in the future. So you can apply either via UCAS or DFE Apply. That's it doesn't really make any difference which one you go for. They're exactly the same. And just be aware, I mentioned the BA Honours, the GCSE Maths or equivalent, DBS, everybody has to have a DBS check. Of course, you're working with children. And if you have spent significant time in the last 10 years abroad, so that's 6 months cumulatively or more, you will have to provide certificate of good conduct. And this will be the same for all providers, so you can check that. A lot of the European Union states provide a European Union-wide certificate of good conduct, and at the moment you can also apply for those online. Some countries are more difficult, but we can advise you on that. Also make sure you choose your references wisely. Your referees need to really talk about you relating to other people, to children, and being fit to enter the teaching profession. And I mentioned the NARIC statements of equivalency as well. And then just to a final thing, talking about the interview process, do think about you preparing yourself well for that. For us, you will have to complete a written task in English and a written task in your first foreign language. You will also have to do a little mini teaching task of 10 minutes, and you will have an interview. So I mentioned all the different places you can train at with our program. And your next steps would be, I mentioned the Get Into Teaching website, so make sure you sign up with a Get Into Teaching advisor. You can either go through UCAS or DFE Apply, and you can see here our website, nationalmodernlanguages.com, if you want some more information, or get in touch with us to ask questions and get more tailored advice for your application. So you might have questions, and I said before, I'm not really able to pick up on all the questions that might have been up in the chat. So I would suggest that you contact us to ask further questions if you wish, because of course each one of you will be, I assume, very different. So thank you very much for coming today. Do contact us. I hope it's made you think about going into teaching. I must say, you know, I've not looked back in 30 years. I never thought I'd be a teacher, and I can't say I loved absolutely every minute. There have been times when I've found the workload hard. However, I've loved making a difference to children's lives and the number of different people I could meet in my career as well. And yes, just doing what I enjoy, which is languages. So thank you very much, and get in touch if you want to know more. Thank you, thanks, and thanks for your lovely messages, very kind. Good luck and enjoy the rest of the show. I'm sure there's some fantastic things on there. Thank you. Bye-bye, thank you. Some of you might be still there. I can see some questions here now. So is there more practice than theory? Yes, definitely for us, but I would say a good mix of both. I'm just reading some more. Primary teacher trained, could you access SCITT? We would have to talk to you in person to really see what your experiences are, but the SCITT normally expects you not to have QTS. So if you already have QTS, you might have to go for a TSST course, but if you get in touch with us, we can point you in the right direction. I talked about bursaries, I think, and there is no age restriction at all. Thank you. Danke.
Katrin, I think we're at the end, aren't we?
Yes, we are. I just wondered whether I needed to do anything or press any buttons.
No, and on behalf of the attendees, I'd just like to say thank you very much indeed, and great presentation. So if you're done, I'll just hit the end button.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.